Israel is presented as though we are applying a campaign of starvation in Gaza. What a bold-faced lie. There is no policy of starvation in Gaza, and there is no starvation in Gaza. We enable humanitarian aid throughout the duration of the war to enter Gaza, otherwise there would be no Gazans. And what has interdicted the supply of humanitarian aid is one force: Hamas. Again, the reversal of truth. Hamas robs, steals this humanitarian aid, and then accuses Israel of not supplying it.
Aid coming from the heavens into what feels like a living hell. On the ground, a dangerous scrum to survive, where they land on buildings, those fit enough to get up first stand the best chance. But no guarantee that any of this will prevent the deaths of the starving and desperate.
This could have cost me my life. If it weren't for the good people who lifted me up from underneath, neither myself nor this tin would have survived.
This was Gaza City. Further south, this video appears to show food trucks overturned and looted, resulting in 20 dead and 30 injured, according to Gaza's Civil Defense Agency. Health officials in Gaza said more than 80 were killed and hundreds injured while trying to collect aid in the past 24 hours. Among them, children. Medics on the ground say they're seeing cases with their own eyes.
It is the most cruel thing I have ever seen in my life, to deprive people of food in the way that has been done here, to shoot at them, to kill them, to injure them when they try to get food, and to have engineered a chaos that allows or that forces people now to fight each other and to find themselves in a sort of survival of the fittest reality.
The World Health Organization says so far this year, nearly 100 people have died from hunger-related causes. And UNICEF says in the first 2 weeks of July alone, 5,000 children were admitted to hospital for malnutrition. And as well as starvation, there is thirst. Aid groups say the water crisis is now just as severe. Groundwater polluted by sewage and chemicals seeping through the rubble. The pipes damaged by strikes, and the risk of disease everywhere.
Two leading Israeli human rights groups are now accusing Israel of committing genocide in Gaza amid the hunger crisis there. This comes as France, Germany, and Spain are now preparing to send humanitarian aid to Gaza. Israel says it has dropped 52 aid packages today in coordination with Arab nations. With us now is Israel's ambassador to the United States, Yechiel Leiter. Ambassador, thank you so much for joining us. I know how busy you are. President Trump is breaking openly with Prime Minister Netanyahu, acknowledging, and I'm quoting him now, that there is real starvation in Gaza. Right now, this is what Trump has said. Listen to their very different messages. Listen to this.
There is no policy of starvation in Gaza, and there is no starvation in Gaza.
Some of those kids that's real starvation stuff. I see it, and you can't fake that. So we're going to be even more involved.
Ambassador, is the Israeli government willing to admit that there is deepening hunger, a crisis, starvation potentially in Gaza?
Nobody could avoid seeing the pictures we're seeing coming out of Gaza, although many of them are in the service of Hamas propaganda and some of them are doctored in AI. But there is definitely a crisis in Gaza. The question is, who's responsible for it? We are not preventing aid from entering Gaza. We never have, we never will. We don't want to see people hungry. And that's what the Prime Minister was referring to. Not only is there not a policy of starvation, but actually the amount of food that's being sent into Gaza is more than enough to feed all the Gazan populations. The problem is, Wolf, that it's getting into the hands of Hamas. And Hamas distributes the food in accordance with its political will. Those who serve Hamas get fed. Those who are fighting Hamas don't get fed. So obviously those who are opposed to Hamas are not getting the food, and that's where we're seeing these horrible pictures of people being hungry. That has to be solved. I mean, we have to share the pain together, but we have to be careful about where we're pointing the blame. And the blame is not on Israel, the blame is on Hamas.
But is there starvation in Gaza right now, as President Trump is saying, and as Prime Minister Netanyahu is denying?
I think what the president was referring to was the pictures of hunger. There is no large-scale starvation. There's a starvation. There certainly isn't a policy of starvation. I think there's a lot of confusion on that issue. I mean, the president was actually expressing his heart, and he's got a very big heart, and he sees pictures of people hungry. We feel the same way. The Prime Minister feels the same way, and that's why he's taken every decision possible to have food flood into Gaza. As a matter of fact, right now as we speak, there's 636 trucks, semi-trailers, waiting to enter Gaza, and the UN agencies are not picking them up because of their argument with the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. And by the way, the pictures we're seeing are from northern Gaza, where GHF is not yet operating. But in the areas in southern Gaza, where GHF is operating in full with 4 distribution sites, we don't see the pictures of hunger. So I think it's very important that we appeal to the UN agencies and say, look, stop this, argument with the GHF. They are not allowing humanitarian aid to be diverted to Hamas. Work alongside of them, and we'll get beyond this. But look, anybody who wants to leave Gaza can leave through Israel. They just need a country to absorb them. I mean, if France, for example, would be less concerned about creating, a political capital through declaring a Palestinian state, let them take some refugees in from Gaza. Be a little bit more productive. Some other European countries as well. They're too preoccupied with condemning Israel. And the outcome of what they're doing right now in New York would be declaring October 7th a Palestinian Independence Day. Look,
Ambassador,
Hamas started this war, and Hamas could end the war right now. Let our hostages go. Let the people of Gaza go. They're holding the people of Gaza hostage as well.
the people in Gaza, the Palestinians in Gaza, Ambassador, they don't want to leave Gaza. This is their homeland. They want to stay there if at all possible. And I just want to point out that not one but 2 Israeli human rights groups, B'Tselem and Physicians for Human Rights Israel, are now calling what's happening in Gaza, and I'm quoting them now, a genocide. And as you know, Ambassador, that's a very, very sensitive word for Israel and for Jews worldwide because of the horrors of the Holocaust. How do you respond to that, these 2 Israeli human rights groups alleging that Israel is committing genocide?
Well, those 2 groups are comparable to the American Communist Party declaring the Trump administration guilty of war crimes. They're on the far, far left, the extreme left. They're affiliated with anti-Israel organizations around the world. And we absolutely condemn these reports, which are fallacious. Anybody is welcome to come and see the amount of aid that we're pouring into Gaza. And again, I want to reiterate what you said about the people wanting to leave Gaza. Anybody who wants to stay is welcome to stay. But why keep them in a siege and condemn Israel for making a siege? We don't have a siege. 39,000, by the way, have left since the beginning of the war through Israel, not through Egypt or anybody else. 39,000 through Israel. And there are hundreds leaving every week if they have a visa to enter another country. And if they want to leave temporarily to get out of this mess that Hamas has imposed on them, we're going to facilitate that. The same way we facilitate aid coming in, we're going to facilitate those who want to leave out. But stop. I appeal to the international community, to the media. I mean, look, there have been pictures that have been broadcast, even on CNN. I got to say this, excuse me, but even on CNN, pictures of children who are suffering from cerebral palsy or cystic fibrosis, not from hunger. And yet we're condemned for it. This has a long history of pointing the finger at the Jewish state, and really has to stop.
Yeah, but you heard the President of the United States, President Trump, say there's no doubt that there is starvation unfolding right now in Gaza. And as you know, Ambassador, because you're based here in Washington, as we all know, many of Israel's strongest supporters, traditionally very strong supporters here in the United States, are demanding that Israel expand humanitarian aid and supplies to the people in Gaza. Today, the Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer, the highest-ranking Jewish leader in Congress, and dozens of his colleagues, more than 40 Democratic senators, sent a letter to Secretary of State Marco Rubio calling for more aid. Yesterday, I spoke with the former Obama White House Chief of Staff, Rahm Emanuel, has a long history of being very supportive of Israel, and he was extremely critical of what your government in Jerusalem is now doing. Listen to what he said.
Prime Minister Netanyahu's strategy is bankrupt. And the fact is, he just the other day said that just yesterday, he said there's no hunger or starvation in Gaza, and yet you have reports of children dying from starvation by international organizations, not Hamas-related organizations. The idea that you're calling Israeli soldiers up on the third or fourth tour of duty to shoot at hungry people trying to get food shows you how bankrupt this entire policy is. And the fact is, there's no plan for this. It has nothing to do with Israel's security.